You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
I'll be recording the 200th episode of the Show Before the Show podcast from more diverse climates today, which seems oddly fitting for we've made it through 200 episodes, and yet today, you know, for two guys who are almost always recording from across the country, today it feels like we're recording from just the most polar opposite of environment.
Yes, and we literally mean like weather environments, not political environments, not personalities, not anything like that. Literally, I am currently in Tampa, Florida, where it was beautiful today, a warm mid-80s. Tyler, you are from the planet Hoth, I think.
I am this week. I can't get away from it. I was in Sioux Falls, South Dakota for a broadcasting thing over the weekend where it was cold and miserable. Then I get home to lovely Denver, Colorado, the Queen City of the Mountains and Plains. And
this is a nickname.
We had a couple of really, really nice days. It was like in the 50s, low 60s. It was beautiful. And then today, something called a bomb cyclone hit Denver. That's like the actual meteorological term. Hit Denver today, which involves something with how fast the barometric pressure drops, and a cold front came in and it hit all at the same time. So all day today has been snow, blowing snow. The winds were supposed to be between like 45 and 60 miles per hour. Apparently somewhere in Colorado Springs, near the airport or at the airport, there was a 96 mile an hour gust of wind that was measured. So the Rocky Mountain vibes, a little bit chilly today. So there, that was a nice minor Italian joke. So it's miserable in other words, but I don't think we got as much snow as they were initially fearing. So that's good. And it's not dissuading me from maybe going out and getting Mexican food after we record this, because we're also recording at night, which is a rarity, but we wanted a prime time recording slot for episode number 200.
Yeah, right. That's exactly what it is. This is just a special time and a special hour, even though it'll be coming into your feeds right about the same time that it normally does.
Same time as always.
But this has that feel like when Colbert goes live on election nights, and like you don't know what it's going to happen because you know he normally records earlier in the day, even if you're seeing it at the same time. Like, what could possibly happen? So
live television.
Yeah. So right now it's 9:39 in the East, and it's not quite my bedtime, but we're getting close there. So it might be a loopy episode.
And with that, we welcome you into the 200th episode of the Show Before the Show podcast from MILB.com. Unbelievable. 200 episodes. And I've been here for all of it. I don't know what that says about me. But this is episode number 200. We got I dove in and came up with a new sound for this week's edition of the show. Felt like we were getting a little stale with the weird, like, kind of country, kind of rock and roll intro ditty that we had, which we revamped for spring training 2 years ago. So we got a new sound today. Sam's in a new location today. Sam's fresh off of a trip to Mexico. Everything's new for episode 2.
Yeah, if I just sound Tanner, that's where that's coming from.
Is that how that works?
As if I also tan. Like, if anything that tans, it's my voice and definitely not my skin.
It's not straight up burning.
I still have a sunburn on my foot that is still painful to this day, and I got it last Friday.
Sam was posting all kinds of things on the old social media, all these beautiful pictures of being in Mexico, and I finally just texted him, "Oh, shut up, Sam." But you made it back. I did make it back. You went on a trip, made it back. You actually came through the Queen City of the Mountains and Plains on your way to Florida, and then you have now been in Florida. Well, we'll discuss that here in a moment when we dive into Three Strikes. Thanks for finding us wherever you found us. If this is your first episode, if this is your 200th episode with us, which I can't imagine anybody has actually stuck with us for all 200 episodes. But if it is, I certainly think you deserve a medal or a hug from someone, and you should get in touch. And by all means, please let us know that you have somehow listened to 200 episodes of this podcast. You can email us, podcast@milb.com. But wherever you found us, we thank you for finding us and for tuning in. The official podcast of the official site of Minor League Baseball, milb.com. He is Sam Dykstra. I am Tyler Mon. You can give us a rating and a review and a subscription wherever you find your podcast. And with that, we'll get started with 3 strikes for this week's episode, in which we tackle 3 burning issues across minor league baseball. And first up, Sam in Florida. Got to Florida Monday.
I got into Florida very late Sunday night.
Sunday.
Immediately went to Braves camp Monday morning. I went to Dunedin for Blue Jays camp.
Braves camp was your first stop.
Yes, it was.
Sam.Dykstra at Braves.com. I can't believe it.
Yeah, that's definitely why I went there. Is like, I need to see the wide world of sports.
Need to collect your check for continually pumping the Braves in the top of the pitching
Yes,
rankings.
that's exactly what it is. My grand old Atlanta Braves bias coming back to the fore.
Your big get rich slow scheme. By just one time a year giving the Braves a bump in the farm system rankings.
Yeah, that's please. If you have listened, if this is your first episode, which God bless you if it is,
you're very
confused because this is not a thing.
We do every once in a while have old jokes that rear their heads. But anyway, all right. One day you hit the wide world.
Yeah, the wide world of sports.
Which they're moving.
They are. They're going to Northport, Florida. Okay. They're actually going to play one game there at Northport. Their last spring training game of the year this year will be in the new stadium.
Oh, wow.
The people with the Braves that I had talked to have not seen it yet. That's not for any big reason. It's just because so much of your day-to-day needs to be in Orlando. You don't have time to go to Northport. But they will be moving.
For the uninitiated, how far apart are they?
I think Northport is probably about 45 minutes south and west.
Okay.
But the added bonus is the Braves are technically guests at Disney World, which is funny to think about. But they do not own anything to do with the wide world of sports. They don't own the backfields. They don't own the stadium in which they play. They don't get money from that. That's all Disney money. So if you ever try to go to a Braves spring training game and wonder why it's so expensive, it's because it's basically a Disney attraction.
Interesting. Yeah. You're pretty much just paying. Now, do you get free admission to the Magic Kingdom?
No,
else?
No, it's like $40.
Do you think if you buy a ticket for one of those, do you get free admission?
I don't think so. I've never tried it myself.
They're just monetizing everything.
I wish my media pass got me into the Magic Kingdom. That would have made Monday a lot more fun for me. But no, so that's a real interesting setup. They're I think going to be very happy to move into a place that they can kind of control. That everybody there will be, I think, a Braves employee rather than a cast member, which is always fascinating to me. That the people operating the elevators and taking your tickets are called cast members at Disney. But anyway, so really fascinating environment there, but we'll talk a little bit more about what I saw. Tuesday, went to Dunedin with the Blue Jays. That's its own kind of an animal because if anybody has been to Dunedin, you know that there's Dunedin Stadium, which is kind of a lovely little stadium in downtown Dunedin. But there's no backfields there. It's an existing stadium put in the middle of the town. Not much space, kind of fits neatly where it is. But the spring training complex, the extended spring training complex as well, all the minor leaguers are about 2 miles down the road, which is really difficult. Talking to some people over there at the Blue Jays facility, they said they haven't seen some people from the front office in days or weeks, just because they basically work in 2 separate locations now. Really fascinating from that aspect. I don't think they love it that way, but also, they've been in Dunedin for a long time. They've made it work for a long time. They're also renovating the minor league complex there. Today, Wednesday, when we're recording this, I just got back 5 minutes before we started recording from Yankees camp here in Tampa. A little bit different of an atmosphere for that today. The Yankees major league team had a night game against the Phillies, which allowed me to catch some of the minor league games this afternoon, spend a little bit more time at the complex there. That's also down the road, about 3/4 of a mile. So, it's easier to walk there, easier to get there. But again, it's not just turning around and everybody's kind of one locker room or right next to each other, minor leaguers, major leaguers potentially rubbing elbows. That doesn't happen. It's very separated, very separate facilities. So those have been my first 3 stops. I will be headed to Rays camp tomorrow on Thursday, and then the Nationals and Marlins over the weekend down on the Atlantic side near West Palm Beach and Jupiter, and that'll round out the Florida section of the trip. So it's been an eventful first week so far, though.
Crazy. Your initial impressions. Obviously, you got some stuff up on the site already. There's a really good piece up today from Yankees camp. What are the things that have hit you most the first few days?
Yeah. So Monday was actually a very good day to go to Braves camp for a number of reasons. I've started my trip a little later this year, which I'm grateful for because a lot of the minor leaguers have been there for a little bit of time now. There are times when I've gone in the past where, you go to talk to people in the organization and ask like, oh, how does so-and-so look? And they say, well, he just showed up yesterday because that was the reporting date. And, in time, I've kind of gotten to know how spring training works a little bit better and know to show up a little later. So, I had a tool shed up on Tuesday about Trey Riley, who is a fascinating character. In his Twitter bio, it says Nuke, so I had to ask him about that. He says it is a direct reference to Nuke Lelouch of Bull Durham fame, and that he's been called that forever. Kind of grew up as a gangly kid, has always had kind of control issues, but also has always had killer stuff, kind of like Nuke Lelouch was. Ended up being a decent pick, getting a good amount of money like Nuke Lelouch. And if you're sitting there thinking like, well, Nuke Lelouch wasn't a good pitcher really in what we saw in Bull Durham. What Trey Riley wants you to remember is that he ended up making the majors. He ended up taking Crash Davis's lessons to heart, making the changes, maturing in the right ways, making the major leagues. So yes, he's got his little intricacies. He's got some control issues that he knows he needs to work on. But if there's somebody's life path he wouldn't mind following, it's Nuke Lelouch getting to the major leagues. We know how few pitchers make that journey. So that was kind of cool to talk to him about that. He's coming up to junior college after a brief stay at Oklahoma State. Read the story for more details on that. But I also got to watch Kyle Wright and Touki Toussaint pitch Monday, which was a real treat. Touki Toussaint, I think, entered the spring as a real candidate to take a spot in the Braves rotation. And he pitched 4 really strong innings, came in as the reliever. So actually, Kyle Wright made the start, and Kyle Wright hadn't allowed a run to begin that. His second pitch, according to the Disney scoreboard, I don't know how accurate this is, I don't know if it was juiced at all, was 101. He never touched triple digits again, but that kind of showed you like, okay, we're going to have to sit up straight and watch this. He struck out a bunch of guys using his breaking ball, which is really neat to see. He said he struggled a little bit with his two-seamer. If that happened, I didn't see it as much. Seemed to really work the command pretty well. Talking to people, it seems like he's ironed out his delivery as well. So he might be a major league rotation piece as well. He came out to the major leagues last year, pitched exclusively out of the bullpen. That was just out of necessity. The Braves are throwing as many arms as they could in the majors. He had one of the best arms in the organization. He only had 5 rotation spots. Throw him in the bullpen, see what he can do. A lot of people thinking that now he might not just be a middle rotation guy, a 3 or a 4. He could be a 2 or maybe even an ace someday with what he is showing this spring. If you listen in the past, we said don't pay attention to the results so much, pay attention to what's different. And again, when he is cleaning up his delivery, when he is throwing his breaking balls like he is, when he's adding that little extra velocity, and he was mostly sitting around 94, 95 for most of the outing, that 101 aside, he's doing all the right things to become a major league starter very, very quickly. And if the Braves, we know that NL East is going to be wicked close with the Mets, the Nats, the Phillies obviously making big signings. that division is going to be tight, and you're going to need all the wins you can get. And if Kyle Wright can deliver you 1 or 2 wins by being in the rotation in April, that could be the difference between a division and maybe even missing out on a wild card spot. So that's going to continue. He doesn't seem to be thinking he is pushing exclusively for a major league job. He's just trying to show what he has, letting the organization decide, and he's making them, make a really hard choice. Touki Toussaint, his results were even better than Kyle Wright. Kyle Wright ended up giving up a couple runs. Toussaint didn't. Those were 4 scoreless innings for him. He's continuing to improve this spring, really making the decision hard again. I think he does make the rotation just because he made more starts last year, already has that experience. But maybe he's the 4 now, and maybe Kyle Wright's the 5. So that was really neat to see live on Monday. Tuesday at Jay's camp, out of what I saw, Anthony Alford is having a really exceptional spring from an offensive standpoint. We're going to be doing prospect primers this year. I have the Toronto Blue Jays, which normally is an exciting one to write. But one of the ones that I am going to include in there is Anthony Alford at a crossroads. Really struggled at the plate last year at AAA. Definitely struggled at the times he made the majors. We've talked for years now about how he's kind of a raw baseball player, played football for so many years. The athleticism is always going to come through, but he's behind somebody who would normally have more baseball experience for his age. But I think that excuse is starting to wear a little thin as he grows older. But now he's hitting again this spring. Didn't exactly show it on Tuesday, but did make a spectacular play in right field. Just kind of reminding everybody that even on days when he can't hit, he is going to be an asset in the outfield, anywhere in the outfield. He was playing right field. I think he could be really good in center. If you're good in right, if you're good in center, you're going to be good in left. They could use him there in a pinch as well. He's continuing to push the envelope there. That was really cool. My story from that day was on Jordan Groshans, the first-round pick for the Blue Jays last year. They think he can be a really good overall hitter. He was a really good overall hitter last year in the GCL, which isn't always an easy place to hit, especially for high school guys coming off a normally full high school year. He was one of the best hitters there. I think he was in the top 10 in both average and slugging percentage. And he falls right in line with infielders that, they are very high on. Bo Bichette, Kevin Smith, Kevin Biggio, going on down the line. And, he split his time last year between shortstop and third base. What's going to happen with him in the future? They're still, up for grabs on that. Gil Kim, director of player development with the Blue Jays, kind of reminded me that Bo Bichette, when he came in, we all assumed would move over to second base someday. He spent a little bit of time at second base when he was in the GCL. Now we're a little bit more sure that he can be a shortstop because of the work he's put in. And he's seen some of that same work be put in by Groshans to potentially stick it short. They're still going to let him split time a little bit, but don't be surprised if he continues to solidify himself there. When Groshans and Kim were talking with each other about how the spring is going, Groshans mentioned how hard he is working defensively, how much he wants to make that happen, and how much he is buying into the system and talking to multiple guys, specifically Kevin Smith. He mentioned he's picked his brain a lot. Kevin Smith, we had on the podcast a couple weeks ago, made huge leaps and bounds last year in his first full season. Jordan Groshans going forward for his potentially this year, starting at Class A Lansing. That'll be really exciting to watch. And today in Yankees campus, as Tyler mentioned, mostly focused on pitching, just because I think that organization, when you look at the pitchers, it is so chock full of pitching. It's not high end pitching quite yet. There's a reason why we didn't rank them amongst, I think, even the top 20 organizations in pitching, but it's because so much of the pitching is so raw. There's so many young guys. Davey Garcia, Randy Contreras are 2 guys I really like. They just have to show it for a full season. They could be top 100 prospects, I think, by the end of 2019. Luis Gil, Luis Medina, 2 guys with absolute high octane stuff. Both guys, 70 grade fastballs plus breaking stuff. If they can find the zone, and the Yankees really, really, really want those guys to improve their control because they're high on them, they can make huge leaps this year as well. Go down the list. There's just young pitchers who throw hard in that organization. It's something they talk about with guys because they know, hey, if you're going to be successful in the year 2019 on the mound, you need to throw hard. What can we do to make that happen? What can we do to help you on that front? Kevin Reese, who I talked to for the piece, it ended up being a Q&A just because there was so much there, said, we're not taking guys and adding 10 miles an hour velocity, but scouting departments are identifying guys who can throw hard. Development staff is working with guys, making sure that they are maxing out. They are doing as much as they can. And I don't mean maxing out in terms of throwing as hard as you can and throwing 99 every pitch, only to end up with a shoulder injury, but maxing out for their potential as starters. And that's going to be really interesting to watch. This is a different Yankees organization, or farm system, I should say, than it was a year ago. A lot of graduations. Justice Sheffield has been traded. This is not a top shelf farm system anymore, but there are some seedlings in the ground right now. If they plant in the right way, if they grow in the right way, don't be surprised if we're talking about the Yankees this time next year as having multiple pitching prospects in the top 100.
And that'll do it for this week's episode of the show.
This is what happens when I'm on the ground for 3 days and just surrounded by baseball.
That was a wealth of information. Yeah. I like it. I also just want to go back to something you said very early on, the Nuke LaLoosh reference. I just want to put this in everybody's brains to mull over. When Nuke LaLoosh completed his first start for the Class A Advanced Durham Bulls at that point, there was a discussion between his manager and his pitching coach in the clubhouse afterwards in which they said he struck out 18, which was a new league record, and also walked 18, which was a new league record, which means that to record that we know of only 18 outs, Nuke LaLoosh threw 126 pitches, and that's if there was no foul balls, nothing put in play, no hits, none of it. So it was a different time.
It was a different time. Yes.
Might say.
What was his signing bonus?
I think it was $1 million.
Was it $1 million? Okay.
I think so. I think that was it. Maybe I'm wrong. No, I think it was. It was, worth every penny for comedic gold. Strike two this week, young Samuel. There was news out of Dunedin on Sunday, which caused a bit of a stir on the internet. Vlad Guerrero Jr., who we have discussed a time or two on the podcast, top-ranked overall prospect in baseball, according to pretty much every ranking service for the prospect game. Vlad Guerrero Jr., out for at least 3 weeks with a grade 1 oblique strain, the left oblique, that he suffered in a game last Friday. 3 weeks, which means at the end of those 3 weeks, got to go to a minor league stint for a rehab appearance at best, and then on to the major leagues, one would assume, from there. Injuries, Vlad said in a story to Sam, quote, "I felt a little discomfort, but I didn't think much of it. So after the game, I went and talked with trainer Nicky Huffman. And so I didn't know how serious it was. It's not that serious, but I've never had that injury before. After the tests, they told me, and that's it." There is a lot of discussion around this injury, obviously, because the Blue Jays were already planning on holding Vlad down for 3 weeks or so until the service time issue had passed, and with the Super 2 considerations, he can be brought up to the major leagues and keep an extra year of team control. Sam, your reaction to this, and especially being around Blue Jays camp, Vlad says, he's going to do everything. He's going to work hard to get back. He's obviously very disappointed. For the Blue Jays, I'm not suggesting in any way that this is a fabricated injury, but this is an injury that takes a lot of pressure off the Blue Jays from where they were with, if Vlad hits and continues doing all these things, how can you justify putting him in AAA at the start of the season for anything other than a bald-faced attempt to keep the team control for that extra year? It's just one of those situations where it's no win for anybody. The Blue Jays look to skeptical fans as though it's something that they invented. Vlad's hurt, so it's obviously not a win situation for him. Kind of sucks all around. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that last sentence is basically where I'm at, because I do want to blow out all the conspiracy theories on this. It's easy for people to comment on our Facebook posts about it or at us and say, hey, Vlad, you're injured. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. But no, he looked like a guy who was dejected, who knows what his body is feeling, and he was very forthright in saying he went to the trainer. This isn't something like they said, "Oh, hey, your side looks wrong." He's like, "No, it doesn't." It's something he was proactive about, which you want. You don't want a young player. This is a guy who's only going to turn 20 on March 16th. You don't want them fighting through injuries in the spring, only to get more hurt. I mean, that's what Charlie Montoyo said, manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. That's how these types of injuries go from a grade 1 strain to a grade 2 strain, and then all of a sudden you're out a month, and a month without Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to hurt. This is a guy who's gone through injuries before. He missed time last year with a knee injury. He knows what it's like, and he may not have gone through an oblique strain like you mentioned, Tyler, in that quote, but he knows the game. He knows that injuries are going to happen, and he's going to do everything in his power to get back at the right time. Now, 3 weeks sounds bad. If it was May, that would be bad. The fact that it's March, I'm not too worried about. What I do think is interesting is Montoya said, he's going to be 100% before he starts doing anything. So 3 weeks would put him about the end of March for resuming baseball activities. And then, as we know, opening day for the minor leagues is April 4th. So can he get game ready in a week? I would say so. Without knowing his full health right now, other than what the team has told us, I would imagine he's going to be in a Buffalo uniform on opening day. But the idea that the team would do this for service time reasons and just make up an excuse is just a conspiracy theory I'm not going to buy into. And, you want Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to play. You want him on the field as much as you can. You want him growing, because it's still in the best interest of this organization to have him continuing to show off his skills. Putting him literally on the shelf, well, not literally, figuratively on the shelf, I should say, before anybody gets mad at me for that. Figuratively on the shelf for 3 weeks in the name of getting an extra year in the mid-2020s wouldn't make a lick of sense. Letting him play for three weeks, okay. In Buffalo, like, it's a bad situation, and I don't like it. I don't like the way the CBA works in that way, but at least he's still playing. At least he's being able to show that, yes, I am major league ready. He can't do that if he's hurt. He is legitimately hurt. Another conspiracy theory I kind of want to blow up about this is there's been a lot of talk as people start to look at Vlad more, how big he is. And, that's always been a thing I think we've always mentioned, Tyler, is that he is a big guy. He's listed at 250. Dude. Probably a little bit bigger than that, let's be honest. There's always been questions about whether he's going to stick at third base because of his size. He's worked hard at third base. I think he's, like Bo Bichette, a little bit more tied to the position now than what he was when he was at Class A Lansing, let's say. But, yeah, he's a big boy. And I don't want to say big boy. He's 19 years old going on 20. He's a big man. But everybody starts to think, well, this obviously speaks to his conditioning, and he it's his size that led to this injury. No, that's not it. It's spring. Injuries happen to all sorts of players of all different sizes. It was on a swing. It's kind of a freak injury. Those things happen. If you've ever, when walking down the street and all of a sudden your calf feels weird, it's not because of your weight that happens. Sometimes freak things happen. So let's not fat shame Vlad Jr. for this and say oh, we got to call into question his conditioning. His conditioning allowed him to hit 381 last year. The guy is a very, very good baseball player in all facets other than maybe speed. This a grade 1 strain is going to happen to anybody. Let's not blow this out of proportion just because he is so under a microscope these days. I think what he's done really well, at least in his public comments, is acknowledging that it's an injury. Injuries happen. I'm going to clear the hurdle. I'm going to do what it needs to do. This is a normal thing. Injuries happen. It's normal. It's fine. And go from there. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. I really would have loved to see him play Tuesday. One of the things I was looking forward to on this trip was just seeing Vlad Jr. batting practice. Obviously didn't get that chance. I'm okay with it. It's fine. If he is in the Buffalo lineup on opening day, it's almost like none of this ever happened. It's a bummer for the next 3 weeks. But other than that, I think it's going to be a very small footnote in what should be still a very big 2019 season for Vlad Jr.
And strike through this week, reassignments and options and all kinds of moves to send top prospects down to minor league camp ahead of the run-up to opening day in the minor leagues. Those have begun all across the Grapefruit League and the Cactus League today. The Chicago White Sox optioned their top prospect, Eloy Jimenez, to AAA Charlotte. Third-ranked Dylan Cease goes down as well. Luis Robert, the fourth-ranked prospect in that organization, he was reassigned to minor league camp. That's kind of an example of how these moves go. You'll see a guy or two guys optioned. Some other guys are reassigned. There are differing transaction parameters for those types of things. Sam, from your perspective, what stands out most among the reassignments and the options and all that stuff so far? Eloy Jimenez was in much the same category, I think, as Vlad, in that there was discussion, perhaps, would he be ready to join the major league team out of spring training? It wasn't going to happen anyway because of the service time situation. But with these moves and elsewhere across the top prospect landscape, what sticks out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say it's the timing. I mean, I would have loved for Eloy Jimenez and Forrest Whitley to have stuck around a lot longer, and also Kyle Tucker with the Astros. I think those are guys who will be big major league pieces, and I would like them to be around major league camp for as long as possible, get acclimated to that atmosphere. You talk to anybody who's a non-roster invitee, and they say it's just a different place. It's you look around and you see all the talent in one room, and there's so many guys to turn to, and that's so much an invaluable experience. To see it cut short like this is kind of unfortunate, but there is a reason behind the timing of that. A lot of teams are starting to play minor league games, and if we just mentioned this with Vlad Jr. You want him playing, you want him ramping up, and in major league camp there might not be the opportunities for these guys. Forrest Whitley, by moving to minor league camp, is no longer just going to be a guy who's brought in after Justin Verlander or something like that, as he's done this spring. He's going to be making starts, 3-4 inning starts in minor league games for spring training, and that's what he needs. He doesn't need to be sitting in a bullpen. He needs to be lengthening himself out. So that's why that happens. Eloy, this is going to get him a chance to not play every day, but play every other day or so. And he's had his struggles this spring. Nothing he's worried about, nothing anybody at home should be worried about for sure. But if you're trying to push for the team, this isn't the spring he would have hoped for necessarily. As of right now, or as of right before he got sent down, he was 4 for 26 with a homer, so that was a 154 average in 9 games. Not great, not worrisome whatsoever. 9-game stretches are what they are, especially when you're coming off a long off season. He'll need time to get those at bats, and that's what he's going to end up doing. So yeah, it is unfortunate, but if you need a reprieve from that, if you're looking at that and saying, oh man, I wish Forrest Whitley would be making his major league debut as the number 5 starter for the Houston Astros. I did do this tool shed on Friday that I think was kind of fun, actually, on when I think top 100 prospects will make their debuts. So Kyle Tucker's not on this list because he debuted last season. A lot of those Braves pitchers, that we mentioned, Kyle Wright, Touki Toussaint, Bryce Wilson, they will not be on this list because they debuted last year. But, when do I think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Eloy Jimenez are going to see the majors? In April. I mean, that's just what we've all agreed on. I think that's when it's going to happen. The one I did choose, and we still don't have any closure on this, so as long as it happens, as long as he's still in camp, could still be an option, is Nick Senzel with the Reds. Seems to be a lot of indications that he will be the center fielder. I know he's battled a little bit of muscle injury of late, and that's kind of holding him out. And the less time he's not on the field, the less time he can show that he's major league ready as a hitter and as a center fielder. But the Reds seem to be all in. And again, if you're trying to push for a tough division, which the NL Central should be, it should be a competitive division, maybe even 1 through 5 that competitive. Those wins in April that you could be getting with Nick Senzel, and in March, those couple days in March, they will matter at the end of the season. So have your best talent out when they're ready. He's looking ready when he's on the field this spring. I think he'll make the team in March. I thought that as of last week. We'll have to see what he does here in the next couple of weeks, but that'll be really cool. Some of the other cuts, I think Forrest Whitley will be up in May. Tyler mentioned Super 2 before. Super 2 cutoff is usually around June. So, yeah, there's a potential the Astros could hold him down. But everybody agrees, and Astros brass included, he is one of their five best pitchers in the organization. He just needs innings. He just needs to show that in the minor league level. But if his stuff takes off in April and May, and, again, he's kind of a kitchen sink pitcher with velocity as well. Just has so many pitches he can throw at you. It's almost going to be a waste of his time to have AAA or AA hitters continually whiffing and not touching his stuff. Let him make the majors. I could see that happening in May. Could also see Fernando Tatis Jr., who I think is still in camp. I don't think he's been reassigned yet. I think he could be up in May. As these stories start to pour in, and we're going to have more and more of them on the site in the next couple of days, again, as minor league games pick up and more opportunities for these guys start to abound. Revisit this story and just be remembered that, yes, they're being sent down now. Their major league debuts likely aren't far off, and we'll be talking about them more and more as the months to come, as they build their major league readiness with games in the minor league level.
So that is 3 strikes for the 200th episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. And Sam has our interview subject. Yeah,
kind of building off what we just said about non-roster invitees. I wanted to grab somebody in Yankees camp who had gone through that process and who is now back in minor league camp. And that's number 8 Yankees prospect, Trevor Stephan. We talked about that, what it was like getting the non-roster invite. His actually came really late in the process. I think it was a surprise when the Yankees announced their NRIs and he wasn't initially on it after finishing the year at AA Trenton last year. He talked about how he found out about it, what he had to do from there. And one thing I just want to note before we get into the interview, I do ask him at one point, had you ever been to New York City? And I forgot that he pitched for Staten Island. He corrected me and did it very politely, as you'll hear. But anybody who lives in Staten Island, and I know we have a couple of those on the MILB staff, I do consider it part of New York City. That was not me slighting Staten Island to be like, well, you haven't been to New York City. You just pitched at Staten Island. No, I forgot about that in my research. He definitely pitched there. That's on me. I'm not trying to slight anybody. But anyways, it was a very enjoyable interview. And yeah, he's our interview subject for episode number 200. That's number 8 prospect in the New York Yankees system, Trevor Stephan. All right, so this is your second spring, right?
Yeah, second.
Yeah,
full, yeah.
Second full spring training. So how does this compare to last year?
It's a little different. I got to go across the street for a little bit, so that was a good experience. Getting to hang with all the guys in the big leagues, learn from them. That was fun. But as far as second spring training goes, just kind of first one you didn't know what to expect. You just heard stories, kind of like based it off that, how to get ready. And then I feel like I didn't throw enough coming into last spring training, so this one I made sure I was just a few weeks ahead of where I wanted to be. So that was just making an adjustment there.
Yeah, when did you start throwing then?
I threw all off season, but I didn't touch a mound until I got a couple weeks before coming out here.
Okay.
So I took 4 months off from throwing off the mound.
Right. Yeah, and you mentioned your time across the street. What was your biggest takeaway from being a non-roster invitee?
Biggest takeaway? Just seeing how professional the guys were, like how they took care of themselves, like what it means to be a professional over there, and how they handle themselves and going about the things they do the same way.
What's something then you've carried over? Like what was professional that maybe something you weren't doing before, or something you've added to your routine?
Just workloads, I think. They real efficient with what they do, and making the most out of their time, and just getting ready for every start that they have.
And going back to last year, first full season, first time pitching April to September. What was that ride like? Splitting time between Tampa and Trenton.
Yeah, it was a good experience. Tampa was good weather, and then I was lucky I got to miss the cold up north, so I was kind of pumped about that. And then the time I went up north, the weather was already good, but it was just a long year. I didn't throw as many innings as I was hoping to throw, but I stayed healthy the whole year, which was big, and didn't miss a start, so that was good. Just kind of want to build off that year. Got my feet wet in AA, and just hope to climbing off that one last year.
Yeah, and you moved up pretty quick. I mean, you were in Tampa for what, 6 or 7 starts, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was about a month and a half.
Right. So did you even expect to move as quickly as you did?
No, I didn't know what was. I got to skip Charleston.
Right.
And I didn't really know what the plan was. I just tried to control what I could, and then it was nice that they pushed me, and then I got to Double-A and had a little bit of a hiccup there, but better league, better hitters, and just kind of didn't feel like I pitched as good as I could have, but I feel like I'm in a good spot right now to return there and see what I can do.
Yeah, and you mentioned it was a little bit of a hiccup. Strikeout numbers were still there in Trenton. So what did you take away from your time at Double-A? Now, people say that's when you really start to feel like you're close to the majors, but what did you take away from that experience?
Double-A?
Yeah.
Just, the hitters were more advanced, They're going to be more selective. They made me throw more pitches. That was probably the biggest thing. Strikeouts were, you could still get them, but they had better approaches, and if you weren't on that day, they definitely made you work harder.
And so what was your reaction to the Yankees extending a non-roster invite? Because I feel like you might have been one of the later ads on that.
Yeah, I found out I think the day before pitchers reported over there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So how quickly of a turnaround did you need to get down here then?
Not bad. The pitching coordinator I was already down here, so
okay.
I was here for just getting ready, and then the pitching coordinator came up to my locker and he told me the news, so I was pretty stoked about that.
There you go.
That was cool. I just packed my bags up that afternoon, and they took them across the street for me and just got after it over there.
What kind of instructions did they give you when they give you that news like that, especially that quick?
You mean like when they told me?
Yeah.
They just said, congratulations, man. Go have fun and
okay.
Keep doing what you've been doing.
All right. Yeah, and I think one thing that stands out, anybody who's ever watched you pitch, is the extension you get on your pitches. Where did that come from? Where did that kind of develop? Your delivery, yeah.
My delivery, I just try to be efficient, get as close as I can to home plate, give the hitters less time to see the ball, and I know I'm zoned in when velocity might not be there, but the hitters are still late on the pitches.
Right.
So.
Yeah, but how do you kind of take that feedback? I mean, do you know going into the bullpen what your stuff is going to be like that day, or do you solely rely on
have an idea,
that?
But you're. I feel like I know I'm at my best when you kind of can miss with the pitch and they foul it off and they're late on it versus if they turn it on a fastball on your mistakes. So you can get away with more mistakes, I guess, when you're giving the hitters less time to see the ball.
And one thing for you, as is the case with so many starters in the minor leagues, is trying to develop a third pitch, trying to develop a changeup. Yeah. How is that coming along? What are you doing to make that a viable third option?
Just throwing it a lot more, honestly. In changeups, I feel like just trusting it, visualizing it. I know I throw better changeups left to lefties than I do right on right. Right on right changeup needs some work, but just trusting it, getting the reps in, especially out here in spring training before the games get for real, obviously.
Right.
And, just getting it to where you feel comfortable throwing it when you can pull it out in the season whenever you need it.
Yeah, and why do you think it is more effective against lefties than righties?
Just tails away, I guess, from the lefties. Lefties are, fastball kind of runs that way, and the changeup just tunneling off that. But I think it's more visualization. Just I struggle to, put it somewhere in the zone. I either pull them or leave them up and arm side to righties. But just adjusting my sights and bearing down and making a pitch when it counts.
And one thing I wanted to ask you about, it's kind of two parts, but I'll ask the first one. You were mostly a first baseman in high school, right? Did I hear about that right?
Third and first.
Third and first. All right, so first, you get to see a lot of pro hitting now. How do you think you would do as a pro hitter if you had gotten the chance?
I'd be out of baseball right now. I don't think I'd be playing, that's for sure. But hitting's hard. There's some good hitters out here. I went to junior college as a hitter and crossover as a pitcher, and just first month hitting in junior college, I maybe could have belonged, I don't know, but the hitters were a lot better there.
It's good to be in a DH league, I guess, now.
Yeah,
be a DH organization.
I wouldn't mind picking up the bat for fun like that, but it's definitely good. I'm enjoying the pitcher-only life.
Yeah, and you mentioned the junior college route. When did you feel like you could be a pro pitcher, especially coming in as a hitter like you did?
When? I guess freshman year, honestly. I just started throwing off the mound. I remember some scouts taking notice and sending me some questionnaires. So, I thought that was cool. I didn't know what to, just kind of like shocked that some of those questionnaires were showing up in my locker, big league teams, which was cool. But I guess that was like really the first time that I thought maybe I have a chance at playing this game past college. So that was cool.
So it was more the outside influence and the outside feedback than it was anything you saw in yourself that was really made.
No, like I believe if I stuck to what I was doing, my training and all that, I had a chance. But just seeing like outside feedback too is that was cool.
And what did you do that last year at Arkansas to make yourself into one of the top draft picks?
What did I do? I've been using the same routine that I've had since high school. I've trained with Kevin Burney over in Houston. That's been great for me. And then I haven't had to adjust much since Pro Bowl. Honestly, I've been doing the same thing now for 4 or 5 years, and it's been working. So.
And what is your kind of mindset? Like we said, coming off AA, coming off the major league camp, knowing 2019, it's possible that you could be up there. How close does it really feel to the major leagues?
Yeah, it's definitely a realistic possibility, but I have to, focus on start to start, and I just have to control what I can, and I know if I do the things I can, then who knows what the rest happens, but hopefully we'll see what I can do.
And when you're up there, do they talk about what a major league debut could feel like? I mean, so many people say you don't know until you're there. When you're surrounded by guys who have had that feeling, how do you kind of visualize what that may be?
I just I really don't. You hear some people talk about it, how it's just an awesome experience. They soak it in, and just making sure the moment doesn't get too big, I guess. But I don't know. Well, hopefully one day I get to figure that out.
Yeah, cross that bridge when you come to it. One thing that stands out about the Yankees organization is so many young pitchers at the lower levels. What is the competitiveness in camp like as a young pitcher, somebody who's trying to force your way and try to stand out amongst so many live arms?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great organization. I think as far as pitching goes, there's a lot of talented guys here. And just going out and competing against them too. So a lot of times we play inter squads, whatever it may be, playing catch. Just being around better competition kind of elevates your game, and you want to be the best with who you're playing with, who you're playing against. So it's fun.
Is there anything you've taken from some other pitcher you've seen here and implemented into your game?
Just kind of like talking pitch grips, just here and there, like a routine, whatever they do. Just seeing what all of them got good ideas, and just seeing what works for you, and then going from there.
And one thing that stood out, again, about that last year in Arkansas, and then last year was your strikeout rate. You usually average at least a strikeout per inning. How much do you look at strikeouts as kind of the definition of success for you?
I feel like it doesn't define all your success. I know I'm a swing. I try to get swing and misses. That's what I go for. I don't really try to pitch to contact.
Okay.
So I know when I'm striking people out, things are good. But I feel like I get a decent amount of fly balls too, which is can be a good thing. But just trying to just go out there and compete really.
All right. And when you look forward to 2019, you mentioned being so close, but predict go into September, October, and you're looking back. What would you define a good, successful 2019 season to be?
Making my debut. That's like my big goal this year. I just got to do the right things and then see what happens as the year progresses.
Is there anything you're targeting to kind of round it out and show major league readiness?
Just, I feel like AA, I definitely ran into some road bumps last year, and, I think I got to go out there this year and just kind of work on what I did last year, develop the third pitch for sure. Be more consistent with that, and then get deeper into ball games. I think that'd be a big thing, and then who knows what happens, whatever they do.
And you mentioned you're a Houston guy. You went to school in Arkansas. Have you been in New York City yet? Can you imagine what that would be like to play?
I played in Staten Island my first.
There you go.
First stint. So we would take the ferry over on off days and just go walk around, see all the things New York had to offer. So I've been there a couple times.
Do you have a favorite spot?
No, we just kind of did all the tourist stuff.
Right. Yeah.
It was cool. But other than that, no.
Can't beat the ferry. I love the ferry.
Yeah,
I live in Brooklyn, so
the ferry's a good spot.
The ferry's free. It goes past Statue of Liberty, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so this is the last one. This is actually going to be for our 200th episode, which is pretty cool for us. It's a little bit of a milestone. We started in May 2015. What were you doing in May 2015, and how have you changed as a pitcher, as a person, however you want to find that, almost 4 years ago?
4 years ago, I was in Hillsboro, Texas. It's a little truck stop town just a little north of Waco, off I-35. And I was probably out on a practice field grinding in some Texas heat.
Yeah, there you go. And here you are now and grinding in Tampa, Florida.
Yeah.
No Benjamin Hill this week. Ben has been a stalwart through our 200 episodes of the Show Before the Show podcast, so our apologies that we won't get to bring you a conversation with Ben. But it is episode 200. We feel like we should do something to commemorate the fact that for some reason they've continued to pay us to do this podcast for going on 4 full years. Now, actually, over 4 full years now, because I think we started it in now maybe it was April actually of 2015. I could go back and look, but that seems like a lot of work to type in a URL.
Well, I mean, it was May 2015 because that's
May of 2015.
Right.
Oh, wow.
As everybody who just heard the interview is yelling right now into their pod devices, that was the question I asked Trevor Stephan at the end of the interview is, what were you doing?
Oh.
And when he says, like, I was just in the middle of the Texas heat, and that was before he went to junior college, before he went to Arkansas, you're just like, oh, cool. And now here you are, already at AA.
Are you sure it was May? Because the episode says Tyler Mon and Jake Seiner discussed their spring training treks. Why would we have done that?
Oh, let me check.
Somebody bamboozled.
Well, I could have swore I checked the
podcast feed.
Yeah.
Who knows? Nobody cares. It's not a big deal. It's, the two of us are the only, and maybe the ghost of Jake Seiner are the only people that care. Jake Seiner, by the way, if you no longer, if you haven't kept up with our old buddy Jake's now a member of the Associated Press, and he was in the media scrum the other day with Felix Hernandez at Mariners camp, which got very awkward when they were asking Felix about being passed over as the opening day starter for the Mariners, and that was seemed a little uncomfortable. And Jake, of course, handled it as a professional, but yeah, that seemed like an awkward conversation to have. Going back in the feed, by the way, looks like the first episode that you can get on iTunes is episode number 8, which is May 21st of 2015. So that's why, which means there are 7. This is like the director's cut. There are 7 episodes that evidently you can only find at milb.com/podcast. I don't know why those wouldn't.
That's
be up
weird.
There.
That is very weird.
Drama.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot more sense now.
Strange. Well, now
the Lost Days. Is that what?
The Lost Tapes. The MILB.com podcast. But we did want to talk about our run through 200 episodes of this show, and unfortunately for all of you, all 200 of them have contained me. There have not been nearly enough Sam Dykstra or Jake Seiner episodes, but we are at 200, a nice round number, and we wanted to talk about some of our time doing this show. Sam, give me some of your memories of the first 200 episodes of this show.
I just remember the beginning and when we were trying to figure out what this was going to be exactly. And
Sam was very hands-on, even though Sam was not on the show as one of our hosts right out of the gate. Sam was very much a part of the creation of the show, was on the show for several episodes early on as a guest, where we would talk about things that he wrote. So Sam's been in this since episode number 1.
Yeah. I don't know if I was in that first episode, but I do remember every once in a while just being like brought into a room with Jake and just being like, hey, do you want to talk about your recent story?
Blindfolded. It had no windows. It was like the room in the Bourne Identity.
Yeah, it was just like, how does this work? He's like, just speaking to the this microphone? Yes, this microphone. But I remember we were trying to figure out what the name of the show was going to be, floating around a bunch of ideas, and then it just got settled on the show before the show, which I think was just like...
That was one of my suggestions.
Yeah, it was just too perfect.
I will forever take pride in that. I actually did not come up with it, but it was suggested to me, and then I suggested it, and so I'll take full credit.
Oh, of course. I mean, that's how creative work works, right?
Exactly. Ask Mark Zuckerberg.
now I'm trying to think of what our Aaron Sorkin Oscar film would be called. But anyway, but then we developed the idea for Three Strikes, just the idea of, most podcasts kind of have here's where we're going to talk about what's going on.
Formula. Yeah.
And then we always knew that there was going to be a guest, because we alone can't be a draw as big as our egos are.
No, God, no. God, no.
We can't be what's going to bring you guys into the show each week. We want to bring you into the world of minor league baseball, and who better to do that than the people who are playing the sport every day, coaching the sport every day, interacting in the sport somehow. Or, when Ben has a guest on, running the sport behind the scenes. So we want to bring that to you. We want to bring the news to you. We want to bring our own touches with it as well. And this was kind of a fun way of doing it at the start. And I think it was more succinct at the beginning, to be honest with you. Is that probably right? I feel like the first couple episodes were like 44 minutes.
That could be. I know Brendan DeRocher is our former fearless leader at this side of the MILB game. He's moved on to a different role these days inside now it's not even part of. Anyway, he's got a different job. Brendan, I know at the outside of the podcast, we first started doing episodes that were like an hour long, and he was like, let's try to make it more like 30 to 45 minutes. It's like a good commute time for people. We were never able to get it down around there on average. But yeah, I think you're right. I think for a while we were like closer to 50 minutes, and then now it's just we've had like hour and 10-minute shows.
I mean, I think that speaks more to the idea of what podcasts are now. Like everybody.
Yeah, that's probably true. That was 4 years ago when we started this show, and that is an eternity, especially in this medium, which still I don't think anybody really knows what it is. For anybody who really knows much of anything about me, one of my heroes in life is Conan O'Brien, and Conan describes it on his new podcast as radio is back. That's what podcasts are now, which is like kind of true, but it's also, I don't know, it's very weird. It's we're all still kind of blindly trying to figure out what exactly this is supposed to be as a medium.
I think radio is back is a great way of putting it, just because it used to be, and it used to be meaning like when I was in high school, that it wasn't very long ago. We listened to, the drive time radio show every morning. It was Rock 102 in Springfield. It was Bax and O'Brien, and you knew their bits, you knew what they were doing, but you liked spending time with them. My job was to paint apartments, and to have those two guys with you alongside you just made the morning more fun. That's what podcasts are. It's, we're there for you on your commute, on your run, just sitting around the house, cleaning dishes, whatever you're doing. We're radio we can take with you, but you're buying into it. It's not just what's on the station. You're choosing to download it. And, again, we say this every week, but thank you for choosing to download it. It is much more of an active activity than just turning the dial and seeing what's happened to be playing over the radio waves. This is something you guys are seeking out, or we're bringing to you in some way, and you're buying in, which is really, really neat. And seeing that aspect of it has been cool. But yeah, you need to find a way to deliver the news in a way that people are going to be used to, that they're going to feel comfortable in, that they're going to enjoy. And in that way, I think we have kind of fluctuated over the years. I remember at one point I tried to do interviews where we ended in trivia sections. I did that once with Sean Newcomb.
Yeah,
and it didn't exactly end well. Not in a bad way. He wasn't upset. It was just like
it ended with a physical altercation. Yeah. Sam got beat up by
Sean Newcomb passed me by in the locker room, and if he wanted to do that, it would not take very much. But he was a Massachusetts guy like I am, so I asked him like Boston Braves questions, and he just didn't know it, and I don't blame him. And I kind of put him on the spot on that. So we've kind of phased out of that, but we still try to have fun with our interview subjects, and try to end on good notes and all that kind of stuff. And
yeah, I think we got to try to personalize those more. We ask them more things if we've dug up something kind of goofy about them, their personality or their past, or something funny that happened to them. I think we try to end on that stuff now, which always seems to go over.
And one reason we do that is it's just more fun for us. It's more fun for them. But that's how you develop relationships. To kind of take you guys behind the curtain. These are minor leaguers. A lot of them we're going to be around for years to come, not just in the minor leagues and the major leagues. And one of the best parts of my week in this job is right after we finish an interview, a lot of these guys say that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing that. It's great speaking to you guys. Talk to you guys soon. Because we are going to talk to these guys soon. We're going to talk to them after they throw 7 no-hit innings or after they have a 3-homer game or something. So using this as a way to kind of foster those relationships, get to know guys a little bit more, having them get to know us a little bit more and who we are when we can ask longer questions and go a little bit deeper is really, really neat. And it's been a really fantastic outlet for that kind of stuff.
By the way, I thought that it was so I've had 2 co-hosts on this podcast. First off, I guess I should say I do think there was one episode in which I did not appear, and that's good for all of you. But remember the time when you and Ben and Kelsey went to a game in Brooklyn? I don't think I was on that one. I think I just
You did produce that one.
I think I got the producer credit. I don't think I was on there for that one. So thank God you all haven't had to listen to me for 2. And it's not just 200 episodes, by the way. We had the one special edition episode when the Braves got the hammer laid down on the international signing infractions. So we've actually, last week, I guess technically was episode 200. Ooh, now it's great. There's 7 episodes you can't get on iTunes. Now we're slotting in mystery episodes. It's madness. But I kind of thought that it was, well, I should put it this way. Jake Seiner was with us for only 19 episodes. Sam has been with us since episode 20. And I really thought that this was going to be a hilarious comparison that I can make, in which Jake was the Janet Hubert of this show. Sam is the Daphne Reed of this show, and you're saying, who are those people? They're the 2 actresses who played Vivian Banks on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But apparently Janet Hubert was in half of the episodes. She was there for the first 3 seasons, and then the second Aunt Viv was there for the last 3 seasons. I thought she was there for like 1.5, and then the second Aunt Viv came on and took it the rest of the way. But apparently they split it basically evenly. So that shows me. But that was a long way to go for not a whole lot of payoff on that. But I think the thing that's been interesting is, like, when you look back on the prospects that we've talked to, I think we've hit on a lot of these guys. I remember, early on, I think our 3rd episode was a story about Chris Bryant and Joey Gallo. I had a story on those 2 in which I talked to their fathers. They grew up together playing high school or playing Little League ball together in the Las Vegas area. And this was a story, I'm certainly not taking credit for this, but this is a story that talked about launch angle and, getting lift on the ball and trying to hit home runs and all that type of stuff back in 2015 when those conversations were really in their infancy. But we talked with those guys pretty early on and talked about that pretty early on. Episode 7, we had a conversation with Dan Radisson, who was a Corpus Christi Hooks hitting coach, about Carlos Correa. We talked to Lucas Giolito in episode 9. We talked with Garrett Whitley from the draft in episode 11. Tuki Toussaint discussed in episode 13, which was about his trade. Brent Honeywell joined us in episode 14. We've had some of these guys, as far back as our earliest episodes. Trevor Story was episode 22. Sam and I talked with Dansby Swanson, episode number 24. So that's pretty cool. Like, we've gotten to talk to so many players who have gone on to do big things. And it's sort of rare that you look back on an episode in which we featured somebody and we just haven't heard about them since. Episode 27 was Blake Snell.
That's one of my favorite episodes.
Brandon Nimmo was that was one of the best. And Blake Snell will forever be maybe my favorite interview in this job. And I sent him a message on Twitter after he won the Cy Young and said, I remember the very first time I talked to you in Bowling Green feeling like, no, this kid's going to make it. And he messaged me back and was like, I remember that conversation too. And I think basically in effect said, I wasn't quite as sure as you were. And now he's got a Cy Young on his mantle. But it's pretty neat to look back on all those players. Some of the ones that really stand out to me, we talked with Mike Hessman, and Mike Hessman was kind of notoriously not tough with the media, but I think, you get to a stage late in your career where you're going to be known. I think the Crash Davis story arc in Bull Durham really laid it out pretty accurately, that you're going to be known as the minor league home run king, and as Kevin Costner put it, it's sort of a dubious distinction. But Mike Hessman, who retired as the all-time home run king in minor league baseball, really could not have been more gracious on that episode of the show. I loved getting a chance on episode 43 to talk with Todd Radom, who's a graphic designer who redesigned the Southern League and the Appalachian League. But we talked about this whole span of him designing logos and things for teams and for leagues and for special events for baseball and all that type of stuff. Wilson Contreras, I remember back in 2015, we talked with him. That was one of our first conversations with a prospect, Latino prospect, who had the ability to tell us what it was like to be a guy growing up, having to learn English in a system, the way he wanted to communicate with his pitchers, all that type of stuff. And then he's in the big leagues winning a World Series, doing all that. It's really neat to go back through some of these and look at these guys who, oh yeah, that guy Alex Bregman was on episode 60, and Kyle Lewis, who's still making a climb, he was episode 64. You can tell that I'm just scrolling by the way on milb.com/podcast, but it's pretty cool. We've got a chance to really do some really neat things with this show.
And it's been broad too. It's not just top prospect after top prospect after prospect. We try to mix in managers to get a different perspective. We try to mix in like Ben-esque interviews as well. He led the way on this one, but the whole minor league songs is one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
And I feel
that was another special edition.
I feel like people should be continuously downloading that, like every.
That's an evergreen episode.
Maybe we should just drop that into the feed every once in a while.
just
like, hey, you may have forgotten about this for the last 4 months. Here it is again.
Idea.
Maybe we'll do that next week, actually, when I'm back in the office. But again, just going up through the podcast feed with you, Tyler. Number 108 was John Borman, who you probably don't remember. John Borman. I mean, not Tyler. I know you remember, but like you at home probably don't remember John Borman. He was a catcher with the Pittsburgh Pirates organization. At the time, had just made it to Class A Advanced. Not much to it, but he was somebody who was playing in Bradenton. I think the Pirates are in Florida. They needed an emergency.
We're in Miami.
Right. They needed an emergency catcher. They call up John Borman. He gets to be on the 40-man for like a day. He get 25-man for a day. And we got him right away for that. And those are the types of minor league stories that you're not going to hear very often. Teams might get him, or beat reporters might get him for a little bit in the clubhouse afterwards, 3-4 minute snippets. We get him for 15 minutes. We can go a little bit deeper, really get the inside story on it. You get to hear him tell it in his own voice. You get to hear the excitement in his voice, talk about what it was like to drive across the entire Sunshine State, which I'm going to do later this week, and I might not have as much excitement as he did. But that aside, that's the great thing about this medium too, is you get to hear these guys in their own voices. They're not just quotes on a page. They're different accents. They're different in times, like you mentioned, Willie Adames or Wilson Contreras. They're different languages. We're trying to just weave our way through the tapestry of minor league baseball, just in an audio form, and it's been really cool to do that.
I remember John Borman telling us that he arrived at the parking lot and he had no idea what to do, and he had to ask the security guy, I got called up. I don't know where I'm supposed to go.
I'm a player.
At Marlins Park in Miami.
You and me both.
I'm supposed to be here, I guess. I remember back in. I think it was somewhere in the 50s in the episodes, but we had the episode 51. The very first female strength and conditioning coach in all minor league baseball, and that was Rachel Balkovic of the Houston Astros organization. That was a really cool conversation that we got a chance to have. The people that we've talked to around the business side, we've had groundskeepers on and player development people on, obviously, and general managers and promotions people, and we got to dive into a little bit of WBC stuff back in 2017. We had Jerry Weinstein on. He had just managed Israel in the World Baseball Classic in 2017 and was headed to Double-A Hartford to do that season in the Rockies organization. Some of the guys that I think really stand out are the guys who have had to suffer through 2 interviews with us because our recording equipment didn't work, and we will forever be in debt. I think it was Carson Kelly, wasn't it? Yeah, Carson Kelly, and that was episode 92. Carson Kelly calls in. We do this great interview. We're rolling. He's got jokes, telling us all this cool stuff about, the little black book of catching notes that he keeps and all this fascinating stuff. And this is one of the rare episodes when I was in New York and got a chance to record this with Sam in a conference room, and we hang up the call and the program did not record it, so we had to call back and do the entire interview over again. And he could not have been cooler about it, but it's yeah, this has been pretty cool, man. I feel very lucky to be able to do something like this. And for all of you who've engaged with us, and I got a tweet from somebody the other day who was a fan who I met at White Sox camp last year, him and his son, and he was listening to the episode a couple weeks ago, and we said, like, hey, let us know if you're going to be in camp. And he said, yeah, I think we're going to be there at the same time. And so, just that type of stuff, to be able to actually like meet and talk with people and just share baseball with people is really cool. And we've had some really meaningful conversations on this show too. I know episode 124 we talked with Chris Singleton, the Chicago Cubs prospect whose mother was lost in the shooting in Charleston, South Carolina, and the murders there. And Chris Singleton, I mean, what an incredible kid to get a chance to have a conversation with, who, by the way, I think we talked about this the other day, was married on national television a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, good for him.
Kind of a cool and random thing. Good for him. But Anthony Alford joined us from Mexico. He was doing Winter League stuff. That was episode 137. That was a cool one to get a chance to talk to somebody while they were actually in the process of doing Winter League work. Not something that we often get a chance to go through. I cannot believe this is half the podcasts ago, but I guess it makes sense. One of my favorite ones that we ever did is This Minor League Life, and that was episode 101, which I guess every 2 years now we know we're going to roll through 100 episodes, which 52 weeks a year, when you do one just about every week, the math adds up. But we patterned that after This American Life, and that was just a fun one to put together. This has been pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
No, I mean, it sounds like we're just rummaging through like the bin of podcasts and just pulling out like, oh, this is neat, but like it is kind of.
Oh, remember this one?
But still, I mean, I would recommend anybody doing this with anything in your life, like what you've done for 4 years. Like, yeah, this is part of our jobs. This is what we do. It's sometimes a thing we just do on Wednesdays. But when you look at the large, and I'm going to use this word again, tapestry of what this podcast has been, and we get lost in the minutia and the micro, but on the macro, what we've been able to present is something we're really proud of. We're really grateful because this is your podcast as well. Some of the suggestions we get, some of the things you guys want to talk about, that comes through in the show as well. We try to make that happen. Every time Ben comes back from a trip and says like, oh, I met somebody who listens to the podcast, is one of my best parts of this job. So yeah, even taking this look back has been really neat, and can't wait to do it again when we hit 300 and we're talking about, I don't even know who we're going to talk to in the next 100 episodes, but based on who we've talked to in the last 200, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be really neat, and it's something we're all going to be very proud of.
One thing before we wrap this up, do you remember who your first interview was? Evidently on episode 20, we did not have an interview because it was a re-ranking of the top 100s that we broke down at the mid-season point on episode 20. Episode 21, we had an interview. Without looking, do you remember?
Oh, no. Can you give me a hint?
Not a player. And not even technically from the minor league side. He's in the major league commissioner's office.
Billy Beane.
Yeah. Billy Beane, Major League Baseball's then ambassador of inclusion. Now he's got a fancy title that has vice president, I think, in it of something. And Billy Beane, that was after Milwaukee Brewers prospect David Denson came out as gay, and we talked with Billy Beane about kind of his job, what the role of ambassador of inclusion actually involved at that point. And it was still a process of, I think, kind of trying to define that. He was only, I believe, a year into that job at that point with Major League Baseball. But that was a really cool conversation. I remember the first prospect interview that we had on the show was episode number 4. It was Mark Appel, the former first overall pick of the Houston Astros. Mark Appel talked so long in that conversation. I'm not kidding you. I think it was like 40 minutes, the call that we did, me and Jake Seiner and Mark Appel. I had to cut like 20 minutes of that conversation out. And it was like, I remember sitting in my apartment 3 o'clock in the morning editing this show, trying to figure out what I was going to dump from this conversation with Mark Appel, and thinking, like, is this going to be every week? Are these guys all going to do 40-minute phone calls? And it wasn't like, oh, we just kept asking him questions. It was like Mark Appel would take an answer and he would run for 10 minutes with it, which I very much liked about Mark Appel. He was always a great interview. But yeah, thankfully they've generally been of a bite-sized portion for most of our conversations. One more thing before we wrap this up. One thing that I find fun to do with podcasts like this, obviously I don't do it with this one, but you can go back through our past episodes, and one of the easiest ways to do it, if you go to milb.com/podcast, you hit, the old Control F and just type in your favorite team. Go back and dig up some of the interviews of prospects that we talked to who are, now on your team, or guys who you, are interested to hear about. If you, wish, Brent Honeywell back in 2015, I wonder what his conversation was like. Well, that was episode 14, and it's kind of fun to go back and listen to just how different things were at the early stages of these guys' careers. I remember after Blake Snell won the Cy Young last year, I went back through and listened to his whole interview because I thought I had a memory of him saying, like, ultimately I'd like to win a Cy Young someday. He didn't. He said he would like to be an all-star, and he accomplished that last year also. But it's kind of neat. So go and do that.
Yeah.
If you have time.
And one thing that you will do if you do that, no matter what team you're a fan of, you will find somebody there.
We have covered all 30 major league organizations
multiple times. We have a running spreadsheet of when's the last time we have talked to a player from an organization. And I try to keep it updated and make sure that teams that we haven't talked about in a while, we will get their next interesting prospect in there, just so it's always fresh and we're not repeating organizations. That's going to happen. It's just the nature of the job. But when we can, we're trying to get all the organizations represented and talked about and talked to, as it were. So no matter who you're a fan of, you're going to find something in the archives, and you're going to find somebody coming up here very shortly if you haven't heard somebody in a while.
And there you have it. And in heartfelt tribute to Brendan DeRochers, who was the man behind getting this thing launched, this episode is going to be way over an hour, and we apologize, Brendan. But no, our sincerest thanks as always to you for tuning in over these last 4 years. And of course, Sam, my biggest thanks to you for always sticking with me through 180 episodes together now, which is absurd. If you think about the amount of time that you and I have spent talking on Skype over the last
I know, right? Yeah.
Oh, boy.
But but even then, we've talked in Denver, we've talked in New York, we've talked from Florida.
We don't get sick of each other.
No, we still do this every week. This is everything you guys are hearing is fully natural. There is no hanging up the phone and be like, all right, bum, I'll see you later.
Yeah, we're not one of those tortured creative duos.
Not yet.
We're not John and Paul toward the end.
Or
maybe at some point. We can aspire.
Yeah, who's the Simon and who's the Garfunkel? We'll have to.
We can aspire to hating each other's guts at some point. By the time we wrap this thing up, I'm sure we'll get there. No, absolutely not. But you can get in touch with the show, podcast@milb.com. Sam's on Twitter @SamDykstraMILB. Should we just wrap this up now? I feel like we've just rambled for so long.
Yeah, no, I think we should.
We might as well. Okay, all right, good. Because it's like 11 o'clock at night there. Go to bed, Sam. Thanks, everyone. For Sam Dykstra, I'm Tyler Maud. We will talk to you next week.